Today on the Topic Show, Vivek and the TikTok bill details being revealed. Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown-Jackson is worried the First Amendment limits the government's ability to censor their citizens. Budlight St. Patrick Day tweet is mostly a fail. Mercedes gets humanoid robots for assembly lines. Uber and Lyft to leave Minneapolis due to the minimum wage law. And Trader Joe's has yet another recall, this time due to a potential salmonella risk. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Mercedes gets humanoid robots for their assembly line. Now this comes to us thanks to Rob Sachs over at LinkedIn, and they note specifically that Mercedes-Benz is, quote, turning to robots to handle, quote, repetitive and physically demanding tasks on the assembly line. The German automaker will test humanoid Apollo robots made by Texas-based Aptronic amid the shortage of, quote, reliable workers, unquote. The robots will help save manufacturers money, obviously. I did add that obviously part. Because investing in automation is less expensive than changing production lines or plant layouts. They also note that labor unions are against using humanoid robots, I wonder why, claiming that the move forward automation will eliminate jobs. AI-powered robotics could replace human workers such as masseuses per Semicor, but they will also create new jobs and prompt reimagining of the workplace. Well, yeah, it'll create new jobs that are in more high skill, less skill in terms of you're going to need a lot more software engineers, and depending on where the robots are actually manufactured, that'll be jobs in and of itself. Then you have replacement of components of the robots, as well as the maintenance and ongoing service of the robots. But robots also don't unionize and increase the cost of goods sold while decreasing the quality of the product. Ford. Count but notice. So yeah, Ford had mismatched headlights as well as seats the past couple months. And yet their labor is one of the most expensive labors on the market thanks to the United Auto Workers. And fascinatingly enough, a lot of that money goes to politics. Millions of dollars is donated by the United Auto Workers every election cycle. So it'll be interesting to see, again, one of the biggest issues, we saw this during the Big Three being General Motors, Ford, as well as Stellantis, which used to be Chrysler Dodge before they went bankrupt so bad, in part because of the unions back in 2009, that they were bought out by a European company. Well, one of the biggest things that led to some of their bankruptcies, GM and Chrysler Stellantis particularly, was the cost of the ongoing UAW labor, being the highest, most expensive labor rates in the market, yet having some of the worst performance. And they also have pensions, health. There's some of the highest benefits. It just realistically cannot compete anymore. So it'll be interesting. I know the UAW is really working hard. They're proposing to try to unionize Volkswagen and other automotive companies. And again, they always increase the cost of goods sold. A lot of that cost goes to politicians because the UAW makes donations overwhelmingly to Democrats. If you look at I think the highest ever went was 27% of their donations went to Republicans. That was actually during the 2020 or 2022 midterms. But besides that, it's like 99.99% one-sided political aisle. So it'll be interesting to see. Again, the United States, the cost is so expensive to manufacture here. I mean, not just because labor is one of the biggest, but you also have the EPA, you have regulation, you have the state taxes, you have federal taxes. It's astonishing anything can be made here anymore, to be frank, with so much regulation. It'll be interesting to see. I know Tesla, they have their humanoid robots. They're trying to move that forward. There will become a pivotal moment where these robots will be, I'm not sure what the upfront cost is, because again, like most technology, it's going to be very expensive when early adopters always pay a premium, but it'll be interesting to see how if we have another pivotal moment. We saw this in I believe it was kind of the early 60s and 70s, where they had an exponential increase in automotive robotics, where they had, it seems rudimentary now, but you have the little robotic arms where they do a lot of the welding. And at the time, we had very similar conversations, why are they doing this? Even back then, one of the biggest reasons was cost. Because again, it's hard to pay someone $75 an hour to put a tire in a car and make a profit, as well as reinvest in the company, which is why some of them went bankrupt. So it will, again, let me know in the comments, do you think this will lead to Mercedes increasing their quality because you'll have a robot doing the job? Again, there might be software errors. It could be hacked. Again, the wise man once said there's no such thing as solutions, like trade-offs. And yet this could be a pretty big solution for the company that's trying to remain competitive when, I was going to say, Mercedes seems to go up in price all the time. But let me know in the comments. As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news, you have Uber and Lyft to leave Minneapolis due to the minimum wage law. Can't speak today. Law. Again, I'm not a speech therapist by any means, or speaking, especially apt at that. However, I have a theory. If you click the subscribe button, it may very well assist with my speaking ineptitudes. When I first started the show, believe it or not, spoke even faster, more of a monotone voice, and truth be told, stumbled over my words and mispronounced a lot of things. However, with the more subscribers I've gained, can't help but notice I've made lesser mistakes. Now, granted, some might argue it's just a modicum of improvement, perhaps barely anything at all. However, I still think it's a little bit of improvement, and perhaps it is directly correlated. So if you can, again, click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, again, going to my attempt to read the article by Bobby Armstrong over LinkedIn News, they said, quote, Uber and Lyft will stop operating in Minneapolis as of May 1st after the city council overrode the mayor's veto and gave drivers a pay raise. The measure requires drivers to be paid a local minimum wage of $15.57 per hour, which Lyft would say, quote, make operations unsustainable, unquote, which, yeah, obviously, Lyft has not made a profit. I have to reiterate to that some folks. It took Uber's years to actually hit the profit point, and granted, they finally got there, but again, it's not going to be good for this company. They're going to go negative if they actually had to deal with this. They also said that Mayor Jacob Frey has sought to raise the driver's minimum wage to a level that would be acceptable to the companies. Yeah, okay. It would actually bankrupt them. And again, they're trying to make a lot of these, I don't want to say mentally vacuous, but not very wise politicians are trying to make Uber and Lyft drivers employees, which would destroy the business overnight. Because again, the only conceivable way that could make sense is if you double or triple, quadruple the price to the consumer, which would be unacceptable. They wouldn't tolerate that anymore. And you'd also lose all the benefits of being a contractor. You wouldn't get to be your own boss and make your own hours. You wouldn't get to dedicate, have those types of freedoms or flexibilities. You'd be a standard 9-to-5 employee. You'd be told exactly what to do, how to do, when to do it. So it would basically destroy the whole idea and the whole concept. So it'll be interesting to see what the citizens do in terms of, will they vote differently in Minneapolis? Because again, the consumers for the most part, that's why the market has rewarded them with so many sales. Consumers, they like Uber, they like Lyft, they like the idea of going to a stranger's car. There's a lot of convenience to that. And it looks like in terms of competition, New York and Seattle have similarly increased wage drivers in similar years, but both companies still remained after a while in those areas. So this is going to be a loss leader. Walmart lost money in Chicago for 17 years at some of the stores, and yet someone might have made the argument it's good for branding, it's good for maybe the long-term ROI of the other stores. So I'm not sure how they could actually make a profit if all these laws go into effect, and if consumers will actually accept the increased rates. Now, another one of the top comments on LinkedIn comes from Charles Miro. He says, quote, devil's in the details. If the city council is mandating that drivers be paid even when they just sit in their cars instead of only during the time they are transporting fares, then of course this isn't going to be compatible with a gig model like Uber Lyft. There's really no reason for the government to be inserting itself into a ride-sharing business like this. Ride-sharing was always structured by its nature to operate as supplemental income as a gig, not as a full-time job. Of course, if people want to do it full-time, then presumably they'll have to find it profitable over things they could be doing instead to make money. And that did get 28 likes, including myself liking it, which, and again, another big issue is a lot of people don't do the math or can't do the math. A lot of those apps, if you actually use it as a gig, depending on what vehicle you are using, more often than not, you lose money. You're really just generating revenue. You're moving money around. Because at some point, you have to replace all the not just the depreciation in your vehicle, but all the consumables. Especially if you have a traditional ICE engine, you have to deal with the oil changes. You have to deal with the brake pads, the tires. Those things all add up. So it'll be interesting to see if they really do leave the city, or do they decide to stay and just jack up their rates? Let me know. Would you be willing to pay like 20, 30, 40, 50, 70% more for an Uber or Lyft if this law were go into effect? As always, be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Now going over to the Culture podcast, you have Bud Light St. Patrick's Day tweet is mostly ratioed and roasted. Now this comes a couple days, obviously St. Patrick's Day was earlier this week, and many Americans celebrated by presumably getting inebriated by drinking copious amounts of alcohol for some reason, including Bud Light, which, knowing the Irish, I don't think they'd probably be tolerant of a brand that tried to, well, I guess drinking at a young age is probably, maybe it is acceptable in Ireland, so maybe they did embrace the Dylan Mulvaney endorsement. Though they're also Catholic mainly, so probably not. But nevertheless, in all seriousness, this comes from Bud Light's social media X Twitter profile, and they have a picture of their fancy green can, and Bud Light says, quote, "We've got one of these waiting for you at the bar," unquote. And it's the Bud Light bottle, and it says, "Limited edition, St. Patrick's Day." And it's got a big 3-leaf clover on it, and it's a green bottle. And I just think it's so hilarious, because there's like one or two things that's manufactured today that's called limited, that is truly a limited edition or limited to anything that has a modicum of value. An overwhelming majority of the time, the joke I always had when I used to be in the automotive community, because they'd have, was it Toyota? There's a couple of brands where they call their trim levels limited. And the joke is they're only limited by how many they can sell. But pretty much everything made nowadays that's a collectible, quote unquote, is garbage. It'll be worth nothing in years, especially with this, where it's just a mass-produced product, and there's nothing saying they can't just make more of it if for some stupid reason it ended up being worth something. But there are some people who I'm sure are buying this partially because it says limited edition St. Patrick's Day bottle. It is green, and green is cool. I'll give them that. But they were mostly roasted. They only got 15,000 views and 249 likes, which, again, for a multi-billion-dollar brand, is nothing compared to what they were pre-Dylan Mulvaney business blunder. Now, they also censored a bunch of them. If I go to the little, let's see, got 56 comments. We'll go to the censored ones last. Now, one of the first, perhaps just shows their new customer base. The first one comes from, this is a real comment that's positive, so we'll fact check to look at the profile and see if it's real. It comes from Vicky of PA saying, quote, "Perfect for the holiday." And this is, in fact, a picture of a woman wearing a mask in 2024. She got 1 like. Going to her profile, she says, "Just a girl with bad skin is looking to improve it. Try out new products, share my experiences." And she's a moron. Well, mentally vacuous or a robot. I say that because all of her tweets are just retweets for Bud Light and Doritos and, what is this? Hallmark Channel? They're still around somehow. Fun fact, they own Crayola. At one point, I forget if they still own it. So this person just wants free crap. That's all this person's about. Free crap and wearing a mask. That was the first positive comment for Bud Light. The Bud Light did respond. I'm surprised. Perhaps they were not inebriated by drinking their own product. They simply said, "We're ready," and they gave her a like, apparently. You have Booker5314 having a picture of itself with holding the bottle with some type of beaded bracelet, and that person simply said nothing. It was just a picture of them holding the bottle, and it got 4 likes. A little strange. And Bud Light even responded saying it's your lucky day, though no one liked that response. Now going to Mr. Booker's profile, let's see, what? This person's profile says craft beer, married to my lovely wife Amy, spelled wrong, Aimee. Ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as someone being named Topping. Oh wait, nevertheless. Also says, "And my hardworking son Ryan and packing our favorite Budweiser in Kentucky." So presumably this is an employee or distribution representative or someone who works at a distributor, because they say this person packs your favorite Budweiser products in Kentucky. Now, I'm not going to dare ask where they pack it. What they like to do in their social life is their own privacy or whatever. And the profile picture is, in fact, of a Bud Light bottle. And then the background is the Budweiser NASCAR, or a NASCAR vehicle with the Budweiser logo splashed upon it. And going to the profile, this person just reposts for everything Bud Light. Everything Bud Light. So, I mean, guess at least it makes sense. It's probably an employee of Budweiser or an Anheuser-Busch InBev. So we have someone who just wants free crap. Another favorable comment is from someone who perhaps works at a distributor. Let's see here. Dude, it looks like there's 2 or 3 more positive ones. You have Ruben Cortilla saying, quote, "I'll look for it tonight." And this person has 88 followers. But let's see here. Repost a lot of things for Bud Light, as well as sports balls and wanting to win gift cards. So perhaps a real person just wants free crap. You have, let's see here. You have Judy Milhone says, quote, "Oh yeah, cool bottles and great beer." Fascinatingly enough, there's not a community note on this statement saying, no, it's absolutely not a great beer. No one in the history has ever described Bud Light as a great beer. Even prior to the controversy, it was like a default beer. It wasn't known as being the best or a good beer. It's a beer. Some might argue it's just watered down piss water, but some would argue it has a slight little percentage of alcohol, making it legally a beer. Now go to Judy's profile. She wants to win free gifts. What is this? Can you take the gift and accept my invitation? We can both get free gifts with this way. Search for the app and my code in Temu. So mentally vacuous or a robot that's mentally vacuous. And this is hundreds. Jesus. Yeah, just post on post for free stuff multiple times a day. I can't but think this is either automated or this person's unemployed. But yeah, it looks like all the top comments are people who are working for Bud Light, mentally vacuous, or just want free stuff. And they're not getting a lot of comments, or not getting a lot of likes. There's a game between 0 and 2 likes. Now getting to likes that are actually more than 0 or 2, we have stocks and crypto plays, and they say, quote, pass, simply. And they got 10 likes. Salty Fire Dog says, quote, it'll be waiting for a long time, unquote. Getting 10 likes. You also have Julia Broderick saying, quote, still not an apology, unquote, getting 6 likes. You have Jham40 saying, quote, needs more rainbows, unquote, getting 7 likes. You also have Michael Turpin, and I'm going to alter it to make it moderately family friendly, who says something to the effect of, I'd rather relieve myself in my hand and clap. Barfing emoji, getting 5 likes. You also have Darpin Trayan saying, quote, still gay beer. Justin Green and quote, getting 6 likes. You have Count Swagula saying, quote, is there an apology for calling us fratty and out of touch, waiting at the bar too? Unquote, getting 10 likes. Roberto simply said banned for life, getting 9 likes. Jam says, no, getting 4 likes. Alberta Raven says, quote, no one drinks this at a bar anymore. It's embarrassing, unquote, getting 3 likes. Jeremy Allen says, quote, I thought training fluid was red, unquote, getting 7 likes. Which, interestingly enough, why don't they dye like beer and other drinks like red or pink on Valentine's Day? Seems like a lost marketing opportunity, but nevertheless. Joe simply says still boycotting, getting 8 likes. So they're pretty much mostly roasted by everyone in the comments. Now, going to the hidden comments, the ones they don't want us to see, if you click that bonus button, you have only one comment, interestingly enough, and it comes from a gentleman by the name of D's Nuts, spelled DeeZnutz, though no pictures of Mr. Peanut. Now, and it's simply a comic that says how guys who drink Bud Light sleep, and it's a picture of a gentleman sleeping with the rainbow promotional bottle of Bud Light inserted. I will leave it at that. So, as usual, Bud Light has not recovered from their business blunder of the century by paying Dylan Mulvaney $185,000 to subsequently lose $1.4 billion in sales and try to sell alcohol to children. Since again, Dylan Mulvaney's average audience was about 15 years old on TikTok, and individual is very famous for being a trans ambassador or spokesperson. Nevertheless, there's controversy even in that community, and they haven't recovered since. It's almost been a year, and yet culturally speaking, I mean, we're not seeing these comments let up. If anything, they're just staying consistent or even getting even more visceral, which is actually impressive when you think of the fact that they've banned so many people from social media. Even my individual personal Twitter profile, I remember when the Bud Light business blunder first came out, they actually, they had some mediocre post, and all I did was respond with a picture from my podcast studio with a picture of Yangling in bottles and cans, and I simply said, thank you for the reminder to me to go buy more Yangling. And that little innocent comment got me banned. I didn't say anything too vitriol. I didn't swear in my post. So we said, thanks for the reminder. And truth be told, that's one of the reasons I know about Yangling. Granted, I don't drink a lot of beer. I prefer spirits that the occasion calls for it. But, yeah, fun fact, Yuengling is still family-owned, the oldest brewery in the United States, and they're expanding exponentially, thanks in part because of Bud Light's business blunder of the century. So it'll be interesting to see, culturally speaking, this isn't going away, even though they are spending hundreds of millions of dollars, more on marketing than ever before, buying out all the most famous celebrities from Joe Rogan to Kid Rock, even Shane Gillis, a very famous and up-and-coming stand-up. Yeah, I'd say he's famous stand-up, up-and-coming. He's still up-and-coming, I would say, a comedian. Not everyone knows him yet. Given his trajectory, he'll not to be too optimistic about his trajectory, but I can't help but think he'll probably surpass Joe Rogan in popularity in the maybe 5-10 years. Maybe Chappelle. Another topic for another time, perhaps. But interestingly enough, not seeing the culture pendulum swing back in the favor of Bud Light. And if I were to look at Magic 8 Ball and say, do you think this is going to be a great year for Bud Light? I think they would probably say the answer is still most likely no, probably not. Going over to the political part podcast, you have Vivek on the details of the TikTok bill. Now, Vivek is responding to Mike Lee, and Mike Lee got 1.6 million views for this original post. Mike Lee said, quote, I'm open to legislation preventing the CCP from using TikTok to collect our data, but not this bill. Always be suspicious when anyone in Washington declares they need special powers because of an emergency, especially if both parties are cheerleading it, unquote. Interestingly enough, that in and of itself got 1.6 million views, which is pretty good, but it got 3.7 thousand likes, which is one of the worst ratios I've seen in quite some time. It's almost as bad as a Chris Christie ratio, heaven forbid. And yeah, I can't but think it should be, well, not to say I'm doing my part, but there. I did like that as well, because again, I can't but think, yeah, expanding the government powers, when has that helped us in the past couple decades? Now, Vivek responded to that, and Vivek said, let me pull it up really quick. Vivek said, quote, there's a real possibility that after TikTok is divested to new owners, the platform continues to work exactly as it does today. Yet we vastly expanded federal power to punish disfavored actors in the future. Here's a solution. The Senate should propose a competing bill that bans any tech company from transferring U.S. user data to any government and require timely public disclosure of any government demands to moderate, amplify, or suppress user-generated content. This is the way, unquote. And that got near a million. So I got 955,900 views, but only 16,000 likes, which, again, for Vivek is actually lower than usual. Now, I did use the Urban Dictionary, or Urban Dictionary, I believe some call it, and I think this is the way, is maybe a reference to Star Trek, which is a very popular thing that has to do with space and creatures and Wookiees. Kidding, I know it's Star Wars, but nevertheless, I think, again, that is an important note, because, again, if you just divest TikTok, it means, okay, now a U.S. entity owns it, but if nothing changes in practice, what good was that really? And I don't even know, come to think we're going to see a lot of lawsuits. Of course, obviously TikTok and the parent company are going to fight this. But yeah, we have a lot of American companies, or so-called American companies, that willingly just send all their data over to China. Most famously, TikTok a couple years ago, it was leaked that one of the founders allegedly said, our job isn't to stand for American values. Our job is just to have an app, make money, and proliferate. And Airbnb famously gave up a lot of user data to China just to do business in China as a contingency. But I think Vivek has a really good. I think he has a really good point, because again, you want to banning the individual app would be like whack-a-mole or just putting a band-aid on the problem. I think you really do want to address the actual issue, not the symptom, not the actual. You want to treat the disease, not the symptom, so to say. Which is why I'm kind of astonished. He only got 16,000 likes. So maybe he got ratioed, perhaps. But let's see out in the comments and find out. Now, one of the first comments comes from Paul Zupa saying, quote, the current TikTok legislation needs to be rejected in the Senate, or every app will be susceptible to being banned for purely political reasons. The only reason why Democrats and rhinos are supporting the current legislation so they can use it to censor is blatant, unquote, getting 915 likes. Which, yeah, another moderately ADHD comment or thought. Yeah, anytime Democrats and Republicans both agree on something, I start to get pretty suspicious. Because, again, there are a lot of rhinos which are pejoratively known as Republicans in name only, where, yeah, they say they're Republican, but they vote for Democrat, which is, again, is kind of a snake move. Just run how you want to actually govern, or run how you actually want to vote, so that way you're not tricking your constituents left and right. Interestingly enough, it seems to only happen on the right. But nevertheless, when everyone in the government agrees on something, I kind of get suspicious, like, why was it ever helped us again? But nevertheless, now you have DV saying, quote, I thought conservatives were supposed to be against the expansion of federal power. Why did so many vote in favor of this bill? What's really going on here? I'm quoting 336 likes, which, yes, exactly. Well, there's also a lot of conservatives who say they're conservative, but not really, which is especially disappointing in politics. I can't help but reminisce on the 1934 Firearms Act, or NFA, National Firearms Act, which, again, it's almost 100 years now. Republicans, they say they want gun rights. They say they believe in the Second Amendment. They haven't repealed that. And again, within my lifetime, the Republicans have had the House, the Senate, and the White House. And yet, it still takes months, weeks to get a suppressor. And you still have to do extra paperwork for a safety device. Ridiculous, to say the least. Our founding fathers would be, if we could actually harness the power of our founding fathers rolling over their graves, that'd almost be akin to perpetual motion. I mean, we never need solar panels or oil or anything. Just power the country off that. I'm only moderately kidding, of course. Now you have liberty-loving ladies saying, quote, exactly, the current bill is the most dangerous bill since the Patriot Act, quote unquote, getting 184 likes, which, yes, the Patriot Act was the most ironically named piece of legislation in my lifetime. It sounded patriotic. How could it be bad? It pretty much destroyed most semblance anyone in the United States has of anything of privacy or personal security. You have Shugal8720 saying, quote, if they're so worried about their data, then why allow voting machines? The Chinese have all of our information, including social security numbers, through voting machines. I'm quoting 447 likes, which is another topic for another time. There's a whole area on X, Twitter, and whole social media, whole fascinating phenomenon around the discussion of what's the most efficient way for votes to be counted, what softwares and what technologies should be utilized, and what contracts should be given out, and should the processing devices be made in the USA? Should we be even contracting this out? So a very in-depth topic. Perhaps I'll cover that another time. You also have Mechanism saying, quote, an obvious false flag to allow government around the world to give themselves the power to censor entire social media platforms. It will 100%. It will at 100%. You're onto it. So is Elon and Trump. I'm quoting 78 likes, despite there are a couple grammar errors in there. I tried to make it sense, but nevertheless. Do one or two more here. Wealth Turtle says, quote, TikTok is the least of Americans' problems. I'm quoting 98 likes, which, now granted, there are a lot of problems in the United States, including the ever exponentially increasing in our debt under Republicans and Democrats. They can't seem to stop spending money. But nevertheless, least of our problems? Now there is a great list of the problems, obviously. I still think it's top 10. I mean, the amount of negative impact it's had on the youth, I mean, it just is terrible. It's people think watching TV was bad in the 90s. I mean, at least some program had a modicum of values and some interesting things in it. I mean, TikTok for kids, it is just making them dumber. It's making them adopt literally like ticks, which perhaps we shouldn't be too surprised it's not false advertising. They're saying that in the name, but they're quite literally adopting mental diseases because they're being so impacted by it and they're so addicted to it. Now, the antithesis is TikTok in China, where it actually makes kids smart, teaches them it's cool to be in science or engineering, it's cool to love your country. In the United States, it's the exact opposite. So I still think it's probably top 20 issues or problems in the United States. You guys have Burt Macklin saying, quote, log off grifter, you wanted to ban it until Orange Man told you not to. I'm quoting 21 likes. Now, that being said, banning it, yes. Now, what this bill is doing is perhaps more. Some people are saying it still limits it to the one thing. You also have Ian Miles Chong saying, quote, get the problem at the source. I'm quote, getting 29 likes. So here. Dave Benner, nemesis of neocons, has the little meme of the guy who's putting on clown makeup. And it says, 5 or 4 hilarious statements. It says, 1, the Patriot Act was created to catch terrorists. 2, fact checkers will correct misleading claims. 3, 15 days to slow the spread. 4, TikTok ban will protect Americans. And that got 108 likes. Let's see here. So interestingly enough, I'm not seeing a lot of contrarian statements or people that are quote-unquote ratioing or roasting Vivek. Now, it looks like there's a lot less comments than usual. Let's see here. You just have, I'll do one more. XY, it's a guy, says, quote, they should make it illegal for companies to move or sell or give away user data. Problem solved, on quote, getting 11 likes. Which, yes, that would be the core issue that would solve a lot of these. So it'll be interesting to see. It's already passed one branch of the government, it'll go to the other. Then, all sources, Biden says he's going to sign it if he gets to his desk. So it'll be interesting to see at the end of the day, does it actually become implemented? And again, it wouldn't change the actual operation day to day of the app. It would just change the ownership. That's how I'm currently interpreting the current bill. But let me know in the comments. Do you think it'd be better just to ban it altogether? Is it good enough just to divest it so it's the same app, but now it's owned by an American entity? Be interested to see. But as always, be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have Ketanji Brown-Jackson, who is the Supreme Court. She is concerned that the First Amendment limits the power of the U.S. government. Now, we shouldn't be too surprised. She's so mentally vacuous during her nomination when she's been questioned. She could not define what a woman is, which should be quite concerning considering there are many laws, rules, and regulations that actually dictate or differences between the sexes and the genders, whatever you want to call it these days. And this comes from, originally posted by End Wokeness, and they say, quote, "This is the most horrifying thing I've ever heard from a Supreme Court justice. Ketanji Brown-Jackson," I would have sworn it's the other way, but nevertheless, Ketanji Brown-Jackson is concerned the First Amendment is making it harder for the government to censor speech. That's literally the entire point, unquote, getting 1.8 million views and 45,000 likes, which, again, perhaps she just never read the founding documents of the founding fathers, which shouldn't be too surprised. I think the pessimist in me thinks there's a reason they don't teach many of the originally founding fathers' ideals in public schools these days. Now, going to this quick little, it's about 1 minute 11 seconds. I usually say, their voices are infinitely better than mine. I don't know if this is the case. Perhaps she won't probably stutter as much as me, so there might be something there. So without further ado, I'll play that.
Justice Jackson?
So my biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods. What would you have the government do? I've heard you say a couple times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe, don't do it, is not going to get it done. And so I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country, and you seem to be suggesting that that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information. So can you help me? Because I'm really worried about that, because you've got the First Amendment operating in an environment of threatening circumstances from the government's perspective, and you're saying that the government can't interact with the source of those problems.
And Your Honor, I understand that instinct, and I guess what I tell you is the Justice.
Quite concerning to say the least. It's almost as if she's never read 1984 or anything by George Orwell. Granted, most Americans don't these days. That's perhaps another reason why there's so much of a cultural and political decay in the past couple of decades. It is quite horrifying how much of this was predicted by George Orwell all those years ago. And if you ever read 1984, granted, it's not a happy book, no spoiler alert, but it is very shockingly sad how much the real world is actually the same, and in some cases worse than how he predicted evil governments would exponentially increase and grow. Now, again, the First Amendment is so vitally important to just obviously your freedom of speech. Well, I shouldn't say obviously, she doesn't know that, but a lot of people would argue the First Amendment is only second to the Second Amendment, which guarantees the First Amendment, which Second Amendment is the right to keep and bear arms. I was about to say obviously, but unfortunately, again, in 2024, I'm not sure how many Americans realize that. And yeah, it's one of those things where, like we said in the last segment for the whole show, when we were talking about the controversy around TikTok, again, we had this issue where, the government, she's saying, we just want to censor it just because it might be wrong information. Again, do you trust the government to say what is right or what is wrong in terms of the information these days? Have they ever done anything to indicate that everyone in the government is that moral and that intelligent and that correct? Again, the government is also one of the largest employers. There are a lot of people who work there. Do you trust every single one of them to be right? I certainly don't. And I suspect most people in the comments won't either. But yeah, the First Amendment is paramount to freedom. And people don't realize how rare the First Amendment is. We're one of the only countries on the planet to have it. If you criticize the government in Canada, or some people call it Canada, you're fined and you are jailed. It's not a joke. They actually, ironically, now that I say they're not ironically, they jail people for jokes in Canada. They disguise their totalitarian evilness by acting all nice to people, but the government is quite morally vacuous, disarming their citizens, even taking children away from the parents if the parents refuse to transition their kids, which is another political and cultural topic for another time. But they're literally taking them away. They also are encouraging suicide in Canada. They actually prescribe that as a way to fix some of your problems, which, no, that would just end, they wouldn't fix your problems. It would just end everything for you. Now, going to the comments, I can't help but hope most people would agree that the First Amendment is paramount to freedom, and they would all overwhelmingly agree in the comment section. But let's dive in and find out. Now, one of the first ones comes from Salty Texan, which, good name, obviously, Texas is awesome. However, her profile picture, or the little emoji by her name, is of the U.S. flag, not the Texas flag. And while her hair is nice, she's not wearing a Texas hat either, a cowboy hat. So we'll just say this alleged Texan says, quote, "Good Lord, she's dumb," unquoting 441 likes. Which, again, I believe Ben Shapiro's one of his claims to fame, or one of his famous saying is, never attribute malice when you can attribute stupidity to someone. AKA, people are more likely to be dumb than evil, so he says. And I can't but think, I mean, she's pretty articulate in terms of she knows things, allegedly. I don't think she is purposely being dumb. I think she just truly does not believe in the First Amendment. Now, one of the other comments comes from Paul Zazupa saying, quote, "It's ironic that diversity hire Ketanji Brown-Jackson talks about protecting children from harm when she's gone soft on pedophiles her entire career as a judge. KBJ is also now promoting censoring of American people by the government. She's as un-American as they come," unquote, getting 2.1 thousand likes, which, yeah, going soft on the most evil perpetrators and you could possibly fathom. I don't know why people are supportive of this individual. Like, of all the people to say we shouldn't have them in jail or executed, why was she going soft on pedophiles is beyond me. You also have, this handsome gentleman did a comment as well, and this person's name, The Toppling Show, said, quote, "I'm not surprised by her statements, but I'm concerned most Americans need to read history books. Censorship never ends well," unquote. Now, granted, it was really the most perhaps unpopular comment in terms of it only got 1 like, but might be a little biased and say that's a cool statement. Now, you also have, and again, I know in terms of, if you click the subscribe button, it very well may assist in my speaking ineptitudes. I know I just spoke way too fast, and thanks to the comments, I know this is something I'm constantly trying to work on, and I am aware on. So in theory, I am making progress. And when I first started the show, like only 2 or 3 subscribers, and I spoke even worse back then than I do today. Granted, some people might just say it's just a modicum of improvement, barely anything at all, but I would argue still an improvement. So if you can click that subscribe button again, I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're tuning in again and you're already subscribed, I especially appreciate it. If you share it with your friends, I would also greatly, as always, appreciate it. You also have Eric Pitsy saying, quote, "Amazing that a judge on the Supreme Court feels that the court has the right to censor free speech if it doesn't like it. That's ridiculous and goes against everything the First Amendment stands for," unquote, getting 1,000 likes. Livercat Media TM says, quote, "This, and as much of the NPC cartoons saying, quote, free speech is dangerous unless the liberals control it," unquote, getting 981 likes. You also have Livercat Media TM saying, quote, "This is why," and it says DEI must die, unquote, getting 587 likes, which, again, one of the most morally vacuous things you can do is hire someone based on, I believe, things they can't control, like their race, where, again, you're born into that. It doesn't have to deal with your work ethic or aptitudes. And again, I think diversity is important in the workplace. I think diversity of thought and opinion could be especially productive, and I appreciate other people's backgrounds, but Biden actually said he's going to pick someone based on their race and gender when it came to the Supreme Court nominee. Which, again, if he did say the quiet part out loud, what he should have said is going to pick the best man for the job, or, again, man being an all-encompassing term for when it comes to things like career, right? Pick the best individual for the job. Which, again, if he said that, there'd be, I think, less controversy. It'd still be there. Granted, a lot of people said she was unqualified, and she also didn't know what a woman is. When she was asked, she couldn't define it. She said she was not a doctor. But nevertheless, going to the comments, you have Joshua Walker saying, quote, "Using the guise of public health emergency to restrict free speech means everything can and will be considered that. That is what tyrants do," unquote, getting 425 likes, which, yes, have you ever noticed how everything is considered an emergency so that the government can expand their power on every level? There's always an emergency somewhere. You also have George saying, quote, more horrifying is how Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh seem to sympathize with this view, unquote, getting 936 likes, which, yeah, is quite horrifying. Any person in the world would agree with her opinion, especially those who are also on the Supreme Court. You have Red Wave Press saying, quote, this is horrifying. She is saying the quiet part out loud. Protect free speech at all costs, getting 545 likes, though in full transparency, I also liked it myself. You also have Mason Birch saying, quote, it's almost like DEI hiring is a terrible idea, getting 660 likes. You have Dr. Steve Turley saying, quote, she talks the most of anyone on the court, yet has the least to say. It's almost impressive how unqualified she is, unquote, getting 533 likes. You have Valentin Gomez saying, quote, the Second Amendment is there to ensure the first one, get your tools ready, and, quote, getting 511 likes, which is especially astonishing because I'm 99% sure she's also running for office. I think she said that before. Going to her profile really quick. Let's see. Missouri's 41st Secretary of State. Division I swimmer. Military family. Oh, sorry. It says soon to be Missouri's 41st Secretary of State. So that's what she's running for. That's pretty cool. The thing that she pinned to her profile got 3.6 million views, went viral. Is her shooting a flamethrower, like a real flamethrower, not the Elon Musk not a flamethrower, which is just a glorified blowtorch or a torch for actually tiles on your roof. She uses a real flamethrower. So that is very. She also describes herself as MAGA first, America first. That is pretty rare to actually say not the quiet part out loud, but it's rare for a politician to say and signify the importance of the Second Amendment. When so many of them are, a lot of Republicans are just cowardice, say, oh yeah, you just need it for hunting, or you only need it for deer, to shoot a deer. Which again, read any documents by the Founding Fathers, that's not why the First Amendment was created. Now, going down and see if there's any more top comments here. Let's see here. Kim simply said, don't forget she isn't for the Second Amendment either. And goes to, is this an article? Goes to article from MSNBC. And it was her scrutinizing past decisions of the court ruling in favor of firearm ownership for private citizens. Which, yeah, you're right. So, obviously, she's wrong there. Let's see here. One more. We have I meme what you think. A+ Marketing. They, in fact, did respond in a meme form. And there's a picture of Don Lemon, and the text behind him says, DEI, I define it, dumb, entitled, ignoramus, unquote. I got 28 likes. So it's refreshing to see a lot of people who are obviously realizing the importance of the First Amendment. Now, again, this is posted by these End Wokeness, so the people who follow this individual are more likely libertarian, middle, than right politically speaking. I really hope every American hears this segment of the show, or just hears this topic in general, because again, the First Amendment is paramount to freedom. And again, so few countries have it. It's one of the most unique, awesome things about the United States. Which, again, maybe there's a reason they don't teach many of these things in public schools anymore. But definitely tell your friends about this part of the show. Definitely just tell them to check out End Wokeness on X Twitter, because there's nothing more important than the First Amendment. But as always, let me know in the comments what you think. I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Trader Joe's recalling their nuts due to a possible salmonella risk. As if we've gotten to the point where it might be actually easier just to have a list of the things that haven't been recalled at Trader Joe's. And I'm only moderately kidding. I mean, in 2023, they had over 6 recalls for their products. And again, they're supposedly a premium brand, California-based food grocery store. I suppose if you won the lottery, you could buy all your groceries there. Like when I was a kid, it'd be a special like once a month kind of thing if you're lucky, or more realistically, if you had a relative flying from town to town to visit. It'd be like a special outing to go to the Trader Joe's store, and you buy a couple knickknacks and like a couple what do they call it, hors d'oeuvres, or special appetizers. And again, it's a premium experience. You pay a higher price, and I would expect the food to be safer if it's presumably it's supposed to be a premium shopping experience. You want to have things be recalled and possibly detrimental to your health. Now, this comes to us thanks to Amaris Inicias over at USA Today, and they note that the grocery chain said that it is recalling a specific production lots of 50% less sodium roasted and salted whole cashews over a salmonella concern. Which, 50% less salt, but 110% more salmonella. Pun obviously intended. Now, It looks like a recall notice comes days after John B. Sanfilipino and Son Incorporated, the manufacturer behind Great Value brand sold at Walmart stores, recalled a limited amount of honey roasted cashews over undeclared allergens. So it looks like the same manufacturer. Let's see here. Oh no, that's a different. Okay, that is a different manufacturer. Jeez. Looks like the recall is covering 16 different states. Let's see here. And the lot numbers, if you feel so inclined to check them, it looks like the lot numbers that are potentially contaminated include T12139, February 21st, 2025, expiration date. You have T12140, expired March 1st, 2025. T12141, March 8, 2025. T12142, March 10th, 2025. Now, they also go on to say that, geez Louise, it's even sold in the great country, or some might say state, of Texas. It looks like they're sold at Trader Joe's located in Alaska, Arkansas, Arizona, California, Colorado, Idaho, Kansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, Nevada, Oklahoma, Oregon, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, and Washington. Now, of course, they say refunds are available to consumers who purchase the recalled nuts. Let's see here. And they say that anyone with questions about the recall can reach out to Wenders LLC, the manufacturing company that issued the recall. You can also email them at foodsafety@wendersllc.com. And granted, they also note that the side effects, salmonella is known to cause serious and sometimes fatal infections in young children, frail or elderly people, and others with weak immune systems. The side effects including would element to fever, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pain. And again, it's also probably not going to cost them a lot of money in terms of the take rate when it comes to recalls. Again, I'm not sure how much effort, how much time you have to have in your day to actually be willing to, send an email or call or go to a store to return cashews. I mean, it can't be worth even the gas money to actually drive there these days, depending on what you're driving, I would think. But again, it just keeps chiseling away at the brand image of Trader Joe's. Because again, there's supposed to be a premium shopping experience. It seems like not half the recalls on the show, but perhaps half the food-related recalls on this. Truth be told, there's a lot of automotive recalls we discussed, but it seems like half the business blunders when it comes to food recalls are Trader Joe's. So I'm not sure. Do they just need a better quality assurance, testing department? Do they need to just vet their vendors a little bit more, put a little more scrutiny with them? But either way, if you're charging a premium price, you should be providing a premium experience, not just with clean stores, but presumably with products that won't make you sick. So it'll be interesting to see if this actually affects any of their sales. Does it change the brand perception of Trader Joe's? But having yet another recall, that's going to cost them brand reputation. It's going to cost them money of lost sales and returns. I got to say, that is certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to let me know how I can make the show better and better, and also help with the magical YouTube algorithm. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.